welcome to SVGTV's News Boards for Wednesday, February 12th, 2020. I am Bhavin Orville with the details. Guidance Counselor Katisha Davis is using her skills to embark on an initiative that will seek to address domestic violence in SVG. Davis, who is a teacher at the Spring Village Methodist School, says her plan is to empower abused women and children to take a bold step against domestic violence by speaking up.
Is to set up an organization to represent, as I said, women and children, especially girls who have been abused. And my slogan now is Code Orange SVG, and I plan to make that something official and possibly set up a hotline for people who are abused, a 24/7 hotline. For those who do not know, as I said, where to turn to, you can actually find somebody who can listen and probably offer advice and support. That's my dream eventually.
The guidance counselor said she was moved to have a program for women following the recent killing of Cuban-born nurse Ariana Taylor Israel, who she briefly came to know while she was at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital. Davis said there are many women and children in SVG who are being abused, and it is time to take a stand against all forms of abuse.
I have had relatives and close friends, neighbors who were actually abused and never said anything. And because it's something that's ongoing, and I believe it's getting worse, in my opinion, and I believe people are afraid sometimes to speak out, and I decided, you know what, I need to give my voice to people who are afraid to speak out. And even the children who might not have the opportunity to say anything or do not know who to turn to, we are supposed to, as a community, encourage them to confide in those of us who are concerned.
Nurse Taylor was recently gunned down while picking up one of her sons at school. The assailant was later identified to be her estranged husband, who is behind bars awaiting his next court appearance. This Friday, February 5th, a march and rally will be held to raise awareness on domestic violence and other forms of abuse. The police have already granted permission for the march and rally, which starts at 4 p.m. at the Peace Memorial Hall, to the hospital and ends at the Heritage Square.
Well, at the rally we have been requesting, for example, prayers. Those will be done by some pastors from different denominations, poems from children and adults, and a few songs in the process, and few speeches from the family services, and most likely a representative from the police. I'm encouraging everybody, once you have an orange shirt or dress or vest, whatever, dye your hair if you want to in orange, and you're all welcome to come on Valentine's Day. You can forego the red roses for now and support the venture.
Meanwhile, human rights activist Jeannie Oliver says while she welcomes and supports Friday's march and rally, there is need to keep the issue on the front burner.
Not saying don't march. There is need to highlight the issue, yes, but after the march, what? I remember during the Mark Williams issue when Mark shot the young lady in the front of the police barracks in Kingston Police Headquarters, in front of thousands of revelers. I was the only person in front the High Court every day with my placard until people realized that one start to fill basket. Are we going to follow through on the case? Are we going to be part of the educational process? Those who are involved in the marches, in organizing the marches and the candlelight and the whatever.
Olivier referenced the 16 days of activism against domestic violence held, noting that these activities are usually forgotten until the next year. She added that it is important for everyone in every sector of society to come together to put an end to this social scourge.
Are we going to continue with our activities? Because you see this 9 days thing, after things happen and after 9 days it's dead people live in the cemetery. So I would love to see continuity and not just the march and full stop. We have a role to play. Within the groups which we find ourselves, we have work to do. Within our workplace, we have work to do. As parents, we have work to do. All of us are stakeholders in the process. Nobody more important than anybody else.
A community mediation service point for SVG will be launched next Tuesday, February the 18th under the Impact Justice Project. The launching event will take place at the Ministry of Health Conference Room from 10 a.m. The service point is expected to provide mediation services to persons with minor disputes who do not wish to commence legal proceedings in the courts. Community mediation is a voluntary process through which persons in a dispute, with the help of neutral third party who is a mediator, reach a mutually agreement solution to their dispute. The process is strictly confidential and much quicker and cost-effective than the court proceedings. Mediation also will serve to divert cases from the court system, resolve disputes before they escalate, and maintain harmony in the community. As a justice sector reform project with the aim of improving access to justice in the Caribbean, Impact Justice views community mediation as an effective mechanism for alternative dispute resolution in local communities. At Tuesday's launching event, remarks will be delivered by SVG's Attorney General, Johnny Martin, Regional Project Director of Impact Justice, Professor Velma Newton, and Mediator Mandela Peters. Members of community groups in areas prone to disaster on the leeward side and windward side of the island are being trained to become first responders in the event of a disaster in their community. The 3-day training, coordinated by the Ministry of National Mobilization with the help of Canadian government through its Community Risk Reduction Fund and the University of the West Indies Seismic Research Centre. Chairman of the Canadian Community Disaster Risk Reduction Fund, Matthew Straub, says improving community resilience is important to disaster preparedness.
It recognizes that women and girls can be agents of change, but also calls on our partners to look beyond gender and include everyone in society, including the most vulnerable in the development process. I would just add, in 2017, after that devastating hurricane season, Canada came out and pledged another $100 million to the region to assist hurricane-affected countries in building back better, and to help all CARICOM countries in strengthening their resilience to economic and climate shocks.
Community groups can qualify for grants through the United Nations Development Programme Global Environment Facility Small Grants. National Coordinator of the program, Tashika Haynes-Bob, encouraged participants to capitalize on these grants.
We implement projects, and our small grants, they go up to 50,000 US. And we have strategic grants that go up to 150,000 US. It's a grant, it's not a loan, and over the next few days, like tomorrow, in fact, I would present a little bit more about that, how you can apply, who can apply, and we're hoping that when we do our call for proposals, that some of the groups would actually take the opportunity to make an application.
The Volcano Readiness Project, spearheaded by the University of the West Indies Seismic Research Centre, has previously worked with several participating community groups and is seeking to further enhance the readiness of residents in 12 communities, identified to be in the disaster red zone.
We are also seeking to prepare plans, community emergency plans. We have trained 12 CERT teams, first responders, and equipped them. We have also increased awareness across our communities and throughout the project by telling the stories, sharing the best practices and the experience and the lessons learned.
The facilitators of the workshop are drawn from region, and some key areas being discussed are effective communication and reporting skills, ethics, accountability, and developing social media campaigns. Minister of National Mobilization Frederick Stevenson said the topics are all important for disaster preparedness.
Which leads to poverty. The most at-risk groups, including persons with disabilities, are disproportionately affected. Disaster usually means higher mortality for women than men and children. Young people and the elderly make up a large proportion of those affected. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have seen the negative impacts of floods of both 2013 and 2016.
The use of modern technology has many advantages, and one company here continues to reap the benefits from investments in this area. Tomorrow, February 13th, the St. Vincent Electricity Services VINLEC will observe 13 years since it began operating one of the most technologically advanced power plants at Lobans Bay. Members of the media got the opportunity today to visit the site, observe the operations and learn more of the changes and plans for the future. The Lomans Bay Power Plant provides over 60% of the nation's power and has the potential to cover 100% of the country's electricity needs. Plant manager and chief engineer Matt Lully said compared to Cane Hall, the Lomans Bay Power Plant is more technologically advanced.
Quite an advanced power plant to Cane Hall, and regionally when it was built, it was one of the most advanced and sophisticated power plants built in the region. And that was the era, 13 years ago, was the era where the modernization of power plants was all about the manning, the skills that are required to utilize the equipment to run the plant, a very modern day technical equipment, computerized. I mean, I could sit here and I could actually stop and start an engine from a computer. We had to train guys that were not in that area, the level of computer awareness. So today, if you speak to the operator, which you just spoke to, Mr. Boye, you could see that he sits there, but any monitor, any parameter, all parameters are all over, all alarms are all over. So it's considered a very modern day sophisticated power plant, regionally and globally.
Green energy is one area which has become quite popular with many companies locally embracing solar energy, including the Technical College. Lolly highlighted some of the benefits this investment have yielded.
Equate this as our solar farm, although it belongs to the organization, but we consider it part of our plant. It's a solar field that feeds into the national grid, but we like to equate it to the value of what it does related to the power plant. Currently, it supplies about 26% of our own use. Own use meaning the electricity we use to produce the electricity we distribute to the customer. So if you look at, in the old days, we had that 100% of our own use. It's now cut by 26% by installing the solar system. And if you wanted to look at it as an equation for what it really does, on a whole, it can power the entire office buildings that Binlep owns in Kingston.
As the country continues to develop, the demands for power has been increasing, and the company is said to be examining other ways to boost capacity of the plant to accommodate this growth. The University of the West Indies Open Campus is collaborating with the Garifuna Heritage Foundation and are preparing to host the 7th International Garifuna Conference from March 11th to 13th. The 3-day conference will take place at the National Insurance Services Conference Room under the theme, Indigenous Caribbean, Rethinking a Strategic Direction for Reviving Garifuna Heritage and Culture Through Education. The keynote address at the opening ceremony of the conference will be delivered by Dr. Cleve Scott, lecturer at the University of the West Indies Cayfield campus. At a media launch yesterday of the activities to celebrate Heroes and Heritage Month 2020, head of the UWI Open Campus, Deborah Dalrymple, said they are happy to collaborate annually with the Garifuna Heritage Foundation to host the International Garifuna Conferences.
Garifuna and Kalinago cultures form the bedrock on which the African, Indian, Portuguese, British, and any other culture sit. All of these cultures have influenced who we are today, but we do believe that knowledge of the resistance, the survival and resilience of the Garinagu may impact, indeed shake up, the worldview of Vincentians. We can claim with pride in the legacy left by our indigenous people and eradicate the shame left by colonial action of banishment and eradication of self. At each international conference, the focus is different. Retrieval and research, preservation of cultural sites, including the preservation of the island of Baliso, creating international linkages, and so on. At last year's conference, which explored heritage tourism, we were heartened by the contribution made by the young persons who attended.
Dalrymple is inviting persons in the educational sector to participate in this year's conference, which will look at the Garifuna history and language.
Awareness of our rich Garifuna culture and inculcating our people a sense of ownership and pride. In our call for papers, we declare that, and I quote, the Garifuna people form one of the indigenous nations that has become one of the more important symbols of resistance in the Caribbean, informed and formed as it has been by the history of resistance to European colonial domination. A bold statement, but do we as current Vincentians, descendants of the Karinago, know this? Are we aware of the position of honor which the Garifuna culture is held, not only by UNESCO and other United Nations bodies, but internationally? We need to better understand why in 2001, UNESCO declared the Garifuna heritage and culture a masterpiece of the intangible heritage of humanity, and why the Garifuna language was celebrated in the International Year of Indigenous Languages in 2019.
Also speaking at the conference was representative of Alliance Française Vanessa de Mercienne, who said that the conference will feature scholars and practitioners from the region, Central America, Canada, Mexico, the USA and the UK, who will present on various aspects of Garifuna culture.
We are looking forward to hearing all these presentations, and we hope to see many people present to get informed, share and support this event. We are encouraging as many Vincentians, particularly those from indigenous communities, to participate and interact with our visitors. Registrations to attend the conference will be open every day from 8 a.m. and can also be made prior to the event by email at euromayconference@gmail.com. This year, we are also very happy to include several workshops on the afternoons of Thursday 12th and Friday 13th of March. Those workshops will be held at the Peace Memorial Hall from 1 to 4 p.m.
The month-long activities will also feature an exhibition of indigenous crafts, arts, artifacts, which will be held at the Peace Memorial Hall from March 11th to 13th under the theme, From the Orinoco to Exile. Representative of the exhibition committee, Ackley Olton, says it is a good opportunity for Vincentians and others to learn more about the indigenous people through crafts, art and artifacts.
In 1796, they exiled our way of cooking, dancing, dress. They outlawed every means of expressing our island lifestyle. Our whole way of being was replaced by Europeans. But through archaeological digs, research, we have managed to recover some of our treasures that were taken away from Europe. The Garifuna community spread along Belize, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua have kept our language, oral traditions, music, and dance alive. In the exhibition to be held at the Peace Memorial Hall, we intend to share some of our precious ancestral memory with the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The items we propose to exhibit will be arranged under the following categories: agriculture, which will feature plants, food, and Garifuna recipes; dance, music, and drums, which would feature different musicians that have kept the stories of the Garifuna alive; language, different books, literature, film, and photography